Hey everyone, Rowan Dredge here. Welcome to Leadership Conversations. I've got Mark Griffiths with me from the UK. He's an Anglican minister, the vicar of St Michael's Warfield. And it's just fantastic to have you with us today, Mark. You've been sharing in leadership conferences and church over the weekend. Just great to have this conversation with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
To get started, just tell us a little bit about your history, your timeline, the things you've been involved in. You've been doing leadership and ministry and people work for a long time.
Sure.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, you'll detect quickly from the accent that by the grace of God I am Welsh. I grew up in a little valley town in a place called Maesteg, which is just outside Swansea. I went to school there. I left in 1986. Spent a year programming computers. Spent the 3 years after that in the Assemblies of God Bible College, which is in England. Went from there to be a children's pastor for the next 7 years in a place called Milton Keynes. From there, I joined the Assemblies of God national team, and I worked overseeing children's ministry in the Assemblies of God's 800 churches for the next 5 years. At the end of that period, I felt it was time to go on and lead church. And I was praying about which Assemblies of God church to lead. The English Assemblies of God General Superintendent was sending me his suggestions. And just looking at the suggestions and praying them through, I felt God say no to each opportunity. And then I got a little frustrated with God, as you do sometimes, and said, God, I have to go and lead something. So if this isn't it, what is it? And I felt God very clearly say that he wanted me to lead in the Church of England, in the Anglican Church of England. It came as a little bit of a shock to the system, primarily on account of the fact that I'd never been to a Church of England church. So I prayed a little.
Perish the thought that a Pentecostal would
indeed
actually go to a Church of England. That's
it caused certainly a high level of consternation amongst my present church. They weren't quite sure that God would say something so wild and ludicrous, but I felt it was God. And at that time, I only knew one Anglican, and a chap by the name of Eric Delve, who at that point was the vicar of Maidstone.
a good man.
Indeed, a really good man. So I didn't need to pray very hard about which Anglican to talk to. I only knew one. So I phoned Eric up and I said to him, Eric, I may be losing it, but I think God has called me to the Church of England. Is this even possible? And Eric assured me that it was indeed possible, and there was no doubt that I was losing it. So I went down and I spent the day with Eric in Maidstone, had a look around his church. He was doing a phenomenal work in an Anglican setting, and that blew me away, really. And then Eric made the introduction to the bishop, and the bishop wrote to me and invited me to come and see him. Of course, I didn't know how Anglican structures worked, and I didn't realise that wasn't the done thing. There were a whole range of things you had to go through before you talk to a bishop. I didn't know, and God just made it possible. So my very first service in a Church of England church was as the assistant minister of St Mary's, Bletchley. So my first appearance in an Anglican church was as an assistant minister. And I didn't think that was at all possible.
Wow.
But God does what he likes. That's
It's
quite
amazing.
exciting. Indeed.
Amazing. So you're a Welsh Pentecostal trained, lots of years in the Pentecostal church, who's now been an assistant and now a senior minister in the Anglican Church in England.
That's right.
Yeah, wow. That's so, my own journey's actually a little bit similar in the other direction. I grew up as an Anglican, studied at the Baptist College.
Yes.
I've been an ordained Assemblies of God pastor, and now I'm the senior minister of a Church of Christ. So I often say to people, you just tell me what you want to hear, and I'll tell you from whichever perspective you need it from.
It's wonderful. So. Rowan Dredge is an ecumenical experiment.
Yeah, or somewhat confused as well.
Oh, well, that's possible as well.